Hello and welcome to my lesson on how to use After Effects. Despite the fact that this is a lesson on After Effects, we are in Photoshop right now and I wanted to show you the file that I have created to help you along. So I built this composition in Photoshop. It's 16 by 9 with 150 dpi. In this composition, I have several different layers. I'm going to turn all these layers off so you can see what I have here. And there are quite a few layers. You don't need to have so many, but it can be a lot of fun to play with. So first I have my background, which is a dark gray. And then I have one that's called sky. It's just some scribbles I made. I have some dots I made that I'm calling stars. I have my background layer. I have my middle ground layer. And I have these little bats that I've made. They're not right now in the right order, but this will show you what I have. So I have a right wing, a body, and a left wing. I have some middle fog here that I'll show you what I'll do with that later. I have my foreground. Ooh, it's starting to look nice now. I have the moonlight that goes on the grave. I have the grass moonlight. I have my fence. I have my gate, my right gate, my left gate. My composition is looking a little cluttered right now, but just trust me, it will look cool later. I have my fence moonlight. I have the moonlight for the right side of the gate, the left side of the gate, and the moon. All these layers are just hanging out right now and making sure they're all labeled. And I want to make sure that they are the right size. So I'm going to go to image size. And once again, it's 16 by 9 by 150 dpi. When we're dealing with a resolution for a screen, we normally need 72 dpi. So this is going to be a little large. And I'll explain why a little bit later. You're going to want to remember to resize that file. So I'm going to go to File and Save As. And this file is called Graveyard. And I'm going to put an AE at the end so that I know that this file is specifically for my After Effects. I am going to go ahead and save this onto my desktop. And I'm going to make a new folder for it so that it hangs out there, and I'm going to call it Graveyard. And I will put that file in there and hit save. All right. Well, I'm going to close out of Photoshop, and I am going to go ahead and open up After Effects next. I just opened up After Effects, and it gives me a welcome window. And what it's going to have there are some little fun tutorials, tips, and stuff like that. But you have me, so let's get started. I close that window out, and this is where my composition window will be. This is where all my project files are going to be. My timeline here, my render queue is what I had open before. And I have where all my effects are going to go. So let us get started. There are a lot of different elements to play with in After Effects, so this video is going to show the basic motion of how to make things move and how to render it out. As you get more comfortable with it, you can add different layers of motion to make it a really cool project. But right now, I just want to show you the basic functionality of After Effects. So I'm going to go into File, and I'm going to go to Import, and I'm going to import my composition that I made. For me, I personally like saving everything on the desktop so that the computer doesn't have to go and find things on thumb drives. And once you're done with it, then move it off. So I clicked on my desktop and I have this file that's called Graveyard AE. Down here it says what kind of file it is, and it's asking me how I want to import it. And I want to import it as composition retain layer sizes. So I hit open. And when I hit open, I get this little window that asks a double check of, do you want this editable layer styles or do you want us to merge them all? So I'm going to hit OK. This file comes up with a little composition and a folder with all the layers. So if I collapse down on this, it shows all the different layers that I have. And if I double click on this, It brings all my layers down into the composition and into the timeline. Now my timeline is set at 10 seconds. I want to show you where you can go and adjust if that's not what you want. So I'm going to go to composition, I'm going to go to composition settings, and I am going to make sure everything is set right. So right now it's remembering my 16:9 aspect ratio. This is playing at 29.97 frames per second. This is 30 frames a second with a little space for compression. I have my start time code and my duration. Now when you're dealing with animation, you're dealing with frames. We work with seconds, of course, but it's how many drawings happen per second in animation. So right now, we're dealing with 30 frames a second, and these last zeros here represents 0 frames. This represents 10 seconds, 0 minutes, and 0 hours. That works for me. If I wanted to change something, that's where I would do it. My background color is black, and I'm actually going to keep it that way. Most of the time, you don't really need a background, but for this video, I intentionally am going to use this so you can understand what you can do with this. So I'm going to hit OK. Now I have a lot of layers here. I'll build up some more lessons using After Effects and this composition, but right now I am going to lock most of these layers and turn off something so that you have a good focal point to understand what we're going to do. So I'm going to turn everything off except the background, come back on, and the moon. And I'm also going to lock everything except those things so I don't accidentally click on them. So this little blue guy here is called my playhead, and when I click and drag on this, that's called scrubbing. These grayish purple bars here are telling me how long each of these layers are going to be in the composition, and right now they're all on there for 10 seconds, though we can only see 2 because only two of them are turned on right now. So the first thing I want to show you is how to make something move. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out a little bit on this. And over here in my window, I have these different numbers I can have things at, and I just want to be able to see a little bit outside my frame. And I'm going to play with the moon first. And I click on this little arrow here, and it collapses down and it says transform. And I'll collapse down on that, and it lists anchor point, it lists position, scale, rotation, and opacity. Right now we're going to play with position, scale, rotation, and opacity, and I want to show you how this moves. This is pretty much the main functionality of After Effects. Once you understand how to use the stopwatch and how to create keyframes, you just apply it to different effects and different layers and really start to make your pieces come alive. So I have this, my little playhead, at 0 at the beginning of my piece. I am going to figure out what I want my moon to do. For this particular section, I am going to have my moon go across the screen. So I'm going to move my moon off my composition, and you can still see it here, and I have this little box around it, and I'm going to move it here. And what I'm going to do is turn on my stopwatch for position. I'm going to then click over to the end of my composition, and I am going to click and drag my moon over. You see this little string here? This is the software trying to figure out how do I get from one point to the other point in 10 seconds. I've given what's called a keyframe for it to remember, so it knows at 000 it needs to be at this spot here, and when it gets to 10 seconds it needs to be over here, and this is how the computer is figuring out how to get there, and that is the path it is taking. That's great. I'm going to hit the space bar, and you can see the moon is now moving over there. Pretty simple so far, right? Excellent. I'm glad you think so. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play with scale. Sometimes the moon looks bigger. It's an optical effect that the planet and the moon are playing on us along with our eyes. But sometimes the moon looks big, all depending on where it is in the sky. And I want to play with that kind of feature. So I'm going to click and drag over to the end of my timeline. And I'm going to scale up a bit and make... Actually, I'm going to just move over to the end of my timeline. I'm going to move over to the end of my timeline here, and I'm going to hit scale. And it's going to remember at the end of this, it needs to be at 100%. And now I'm going to go ahead and go to the beginning, and I'm going to scale up a bit and just make it so the moon kind of is big in the beginning, and then it will slowly get smaller. This green line that's happening is my RAM preview, it's basically the computer's trying to render in real time to give us a preview to see what's going on. All right. Now let's be a little goofy with this moon. Let's say that I want to really show you some different things that I can do. What if I want the moon? Oops. All right, so let's say I want the moon. Let's go back out a little bit. All right, so let's say I want the moon to do some goofy things. So here's the moon at the beginning, and it's say that at 1 second, I want the moon to be over here. You see how my path has all these little dots here? This is how it's thinking about frames. And then here, it's more of a smooth line. And it's trying to think, how many frames will it take me to get from one point to the other in 1 second? Now, over here, I'm going to move it up here. And you can see I have some Bezier handles that I can go and adjust the way that my path is moving and creating the motion of the moon. And I can add a whole bunch of goofy things here, and you can see how it's trying to figure out how do I get from one spot to the other All right, let's see how goofy that looks. You notice, no matter what, it knew to be at the end in that last spot in those last keyframes. Now, honestly, I don't want my moon to do all of that. I just wanted to show you all the capabilities you have with keyframes and also how to get rid of them when you don't want them. So all I have to do is select them and hit delete, and now my moon is being well behaved as it is off the screen and rising across. So far, so good. What do I need to do? I need to save. After Effects will crash on you, so make sure you're saving things often. I'm going to go ahead and name this Graveyard. And I'm going to put it in that Graveyard folder. I'll know that this is the After Effects project because of the suffix that's there. Alright, so I have the moon rising, and I like what it's doing so far. Let's play with that background. You're like, Aubrey, what are you going to do with the background? Well, as the moon rises, the sky should probably lighten up because, you know, the moon's reflecting the sun. And I want to kind of give that illusion of it being dark and then the moon rising. It's not really the way science works, but for this particular lesson, I want to show you how the moonlight can really help tell the story. So, I mean, I guess it is how science works, but you know what I mean. So I'm going to collapse down on my background, and I'm going to be at the beginning of my timeline, and this time I'm going to hit opacity on the stopwatch, and I have my little keyframe light show up, and I'm going to click and drag down on the number so it's at 0% opacity. That means it's seeing After Effects' black background, and none of my background that I made in Photoshop is showing through. So what I'm going to have it do is that when it's at, let's make it around 6, that it's going to be really kind of bright there. I think about 72. I kind of like that little darkness there, and it will hold there. So as it cycles through, you can see how it just gradually gets lighter, and it feels like, the moonlight's coming on. All right, that's everything I want to do with that background. Let's play with the sky next. I'm going to turn that layer on, and I am going to unlock it, collapse down here, and I'm going to do that same thing. Right now, collapsing down, I'm going to bring my, I'm going to put on scale this time, and I'm going to put on opacity. And I'm going to click and drag on my scale number, so this is a little bit bigger. And I'm going to bring my opacity down. And I'm going to move this all the way over to the end. And my opacity will come to maybe 100%. I might make it a little bit darker. I'll bring it all the way up to 100%. And I'm going to scale down here so that there's a little bit of movement. This is really, I created really to give the feel of texture and just a little additional kind of movement that's going on. So far I like it. This bottom space here is not that impressive, but remember I have things that will go there. So I kind of like that. I have just some simple movements. It's going well. What do I need to do? I want to make sure I save. Of course, it's Command S. I'll go up here to save it just for good measure. I like what's going on with that layer. I am going to turn on my stars and unlock my stars. Oh, don't they look lovely? I'm going to, all I did was make a couple of scribbles and dots with it. And I am going to play with opacity. And I think I'm going to play with opacity, and I'm going to play with rotation. And I'm just going to have, yeah, I think I'll turn on all of these just so that I have the option of playing with stuff. So that's where it is at the beginning. And what I think I want is that maybe they get a little smaller as they move. And I want to just have them turn a little bit. The only thing I don't like about it is that I can see where I have the edge of my composition. So I am actually going to scale this up a bit. So I'm not seeing that so much. And now I have this little motion here of the stars coming up. And I turn on my opacity, and what I think I want to do with that is have them kind of twinkle a little bit. So I'm just going to pick a couple of random spots, bring that to 70, bring this back up to 100, just that they're kind of pulsing. If I really wanted to make this neat, I would have multiple layers of it so that it really feels like twinkling, but I just want a little bit of flickering going on. All right, let's see how that looks. And you notice my green line is having a little bit of struggle here. It's just because that we're adding more keyframes for it to figure out some things. All right, looking pretty neat. I'm going to collapse down on that, lock that layer. I'm going to turn on my background. And I am going to turn on my middle ground. And I'm starting to see I have a problem here. My problem is that my moon is on top of all my layers. And I also see that some of these are in a different spot than what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my moon and drag it down to be more in a practical spot. So above the stars. And then let's turn on that foreground and we're going to see what I have so far. Alright, so now we're going to check this video one more time. And it looks pretty good for this round. For me showing you how to make things move, I think I'll leave it at this point so you can get started with it. I will later on do a little bit more advanced After Effects with this particular piece, but to get you started, I'm going to go ahead and hit. So I'm going to go to File, Export, and since I'm on a Mac, I'm going to go to Media Encoder, and it takes a while for it to load up. There it is. And I'm going to go ahead and start my cue, and it's going to render out this video. If you are on a PC, you can do it that way, or you can also go to File, Export, and Add to Render Queue, and do it that way. The biggest thing is making sure that your output module is set the way that you want. If you're going to resize it, that's something really great to do. If you know you've made your file a little large, it's great to go ahead and output that to a smaller resolution and hit OK, and then label it that way, and then you would hit render. Right now, the operating system on Apple doesn't really like this way to render, and it's a little bug in the system. So if you go to the media encoder, that's the better way to do it. Alright, so let's see what that looks like. We're going to go into my folder, and there's the movie. Hit the spacebar, and it looks like it plays well. Hopefully this will get you started on understanding After Effects, and I hope you have fun with it.